Hey everybody, welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. My name's Instant Game Dev and today we'll be making this, a moon with stars. If I hit play, you can see the moon rotates with the stars. It also occludes well behind clouds, as you can see. That's because it all uses one singular sky mesh. When the sun comes up, the stars fade away nicely, and when the sun sets, you can see this nice fade in the darker parts until the moon comes up back again. It's pretty customizable. If I open up my content browser and go to the material instance, I can change stuff like the brightness of the moon, I can change stuff like the scale of the moon, and there's more like that. You can also change the overall fade, change around the textures, there's quite a lot you can do. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so here we have our day-night cycle, but there is a problem. We don't have any form of a sky mesh. Now, currently we want a sky mesh to actually make the stars and everything, so we have to import a SkySphere. Now, that's pretty easy to do because Unreal Engine comes with one. So let's go ahead and open up our content browser, go to top right of the content browser, go to settings, and check on show engine content, go to the engine folder here in the bottom left, go to search engine here, and you just want to type in SkySphere. Now there's going to be two options. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm just going to use this blue one, drag it into the content folder and press copy here. It's very important that you click copy here. You could mess something up if you don't. So awesome, now that we have that, we can go back to our content folder and we can go to our settings and disable show engine content. Now, let's go ahead and drag this SM SkySphere on our level. And the first problem we have is, well, there's a lot of problems. The sun isn't rendering, the sky is a very weird color, and the clouds are not rendering. Now, the clouds not rendering is a pretty easy fix. You just want to go to the SM SkySphere in the level and set the scale to something like 150,000. And you just want to copy that and add that to every dimension. And now you'll see that the clouds render correctly, but we still don't have a sun and we still don't have a perfect colored sky. So how do we fix that? We have to make our own sky material. So to do that, we're going to open up our content browser, right click, create a new material. We're going to call this m_SkySphere, and we're going to go ahead and open it up. Now, the problem is that even though we have a SkySphere material, Unreal Engine doesn't know it will be used for the sky. So to let Unreal Engine know it is a sky material, you have to do two stuff. You have to change the shading model, so go to the bottom left under details. Under shading model, it needs to be changed from default lit to unlit, and then you want to go to the search bar and type in is sky. And you just want to tick on this tick box, and this will tell Unreal Engine it's a sky, and you know you've done it correctly because it has this weird like glitching thing with the floor. So we can apply and save. We'll just go ahead and dock this to our editor window. I forgot to do that. And even though we did make this a sky, if we go to our first person map, it still isn't correct. In fact, we haven't applied our material yet, so let's go ahead and do that. In the bottom right under details, we're gonna go to materials, element 0, and change this to m_SkySphere. And now the sky is even worse. Now, how do we fix this? Well, the first thing we have to do is go back to our material, and we need a way to get the correct color for the sky from the atmosphere. Now, it's really easy to do that. If you right click in the open and type in view, you're going to find this node called Sky Atmosphere View Luminance. And practically this will return the color of the atmosphere back into this material. So if you plug that into emissive color and apply, then the color is correct. But we still don't have any form of a sun, so we need to fix that. That's pretty easy to fix. So you just want to go to your m_SkySphere, and after the view luminance, you want to drag out and type in add, and then we want to add the sun. So it's pretty easy to do. You right click and type in light. I think you want to type in disk, and you're going to find a sky atmosphere light disk luminance. And all you want to do is add that to this add node and plug that into the emissive color. Now, if you do that and click apply and save, then the sun's going to render, but the moon isn't going to render correctly. That's a very easy fix. You just want to duplicate this light disk luminance, set this to light index 1 because the moon is light index 1. Then you want to drag off the top one and do an add node and add the bottom one to that, and then finally add both of those to that add node. We can go ahead and apply. And if we go back and I go to my day-night cycle and I change the time to night, you can see it renders correctly. So now we have a SkySphere that actually renders correctly. Now, there is a few things we want to do. So we want to add the stars. To do that is a bit harder because I have a plan for the stars. But before we can even talk about stars, we actually need to import a stars texture. So if you look in the description down below, I actually have a zip included in the description that has a moon and stars texture. I'll also have a link to the original files in the description, but I did edit these a bit. The moon I added transparency, and the stars I darkened the edges so that it would have 0 seams in the sky. Okay, so to import these, all you want to do is open up your content browser and get your T moon and T stars and drag it in. Okay, and now both of those are important. Let's go ahead and add stars. So that is, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to SkySphere. And before we actually do that, I think let's go ahead and select this over here and move this down a bit. We're going to drag off this add node and type in reroute. We're going to use add name the reroute declaration node. We're going to set this to lumen calc. So what this is it's practically just like this node here, this line up here. But now it has a name, so it's way easier to work with. I'll explain now. You just want to select all of these and press C and type this and call this luminance calc for luminous calculations. And we want to go ahead and delete that. And then here in the emissive color, all you want to do is type in lumen calc. And then you want to plug that in the emissive color. So now this is kind of like a wireless approach. And the reason for doing this is because we want to separate the stars and the moon code. So that's way easier to actually work on both of them. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the stars. We're going to select the part over here. We're going to open up a content browser and drag in the T-stars texture. Just make sure I select the T-stars texture. And then I'm going to drag off the RGB value and do a multiply. Now this bottom value over here in the multiply will determine how bright the stars should be based on what time it is. Now there is multiple ways to make the star fade in during day and night, but I found a pretty cool method which takes into the account the brightness of the sky in certain parts. So if there's a sunset, the parts near the sun when it's sunsetting will not have stars, but the darker parts in the sky will have stars. That's this really cool fading technique, so I'll show you how to do that. To do that's pretty simple. We want to right click in the open and type in view. Then you're going to find this node called sky atmosphere view luminance. So we're going to get the luminance of the sky yet again. Then we're going to drag off that and do a desaturation. So add a desaturation node. This will help remove the color and overall make the calculations easier and overall better to work with. So better results will happen because of that. Then we want to drag off that and do a multiply. And practically the bottom value here will determine how bright the scene needs to be in a certain part for stars to blend. So the higher this value is over here, the darker the scene needs to be in a certain spot for the stars to appear, and the lower this is, the more stars will appear. So we're going to bind that to a value now, but let's just finish this part of the code. I'm going to drag off the multiply and do a power node, and this power node will kind of react like a blending. So I usually leave this at 0.1. You can set this to any value. I'm going to make this a parameter now. Finally, then we want to go ahead and saturate this. So you just want to type saturate. So you're going to find the saturate node. This is just a clamp from 0 to 1, but it's free on modern hardware, so it's cheaper if you have a new graphics card. And then finally, the problem is that this is an inverse of what we want. So if we were to plug this into the multiply, this code will only work, so practically stars will appear during the day and disappear at night. So we need to invert this. It's pretty easy to do. You drag off the saturate node and type in 1 minus, and you just want to add the 1 minus node. And finally, this result gets plugged into the multiply. So the problem is that now we have all of this code, we want to add parameters so we can easily adjust them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the stars texture and convert it into a parameter so that we can replace the star texture when we are working in our material instance. I'm going to call this star texture, and I'm going to go to my details panel, remove the sky from the search bar, go to material expression, change the group from none to stars. So this is where we'll group up all the star stuff. I'm also going to go down here, hold 1 on my keyboard and left click. Then I'm going to right click and convert to parameter. And this parameter I'm going to name stars blend min darkness. So this is a minimum darkness it will work with. And you just want to plug that into the multiply. And a default value I found, which is very good, is 35. So you want to set the default value to 35. I'm not going to set a minimum or maximum slider. And I'm going to change the group to stars. Okay. And then I'm going to left click or hold 1 on my keyboard and left click again. Going to right click and convert to parameter. And this parameter we're going to call stars blend transition. So this is how smooth the transition will be. I'm going to drag that into the power node, and a default value of 0.1 is very good. I'd also suggest setting a slider max of 1, so 0 to 1, and also changing the group from none to stars. Okay, and then one more thing I want to do is I want to drag off the RGB value of the stars texture and do a multiply. Now this multiply here will adjust the brightness of the stars so we can go into our material instance and customize the brightness of the stars. So I'm going to plug that into the multiply here, move this up a bit. Perfect. And then I'm going to drag off the B value, or actually gonna hold 1 on my keyboard, left click again, right click and convert to parameter. Then I'm going to call this stars brightness. Okay. I'm going to plug that into the multiply. I'm gonna have a default value of 1, of course, and I'm going to change the group to stars. I'm also going to click on the stars texture because I forgot. I want to go to bottom left, and to sampler source, I want to change it from texture asset to shared wrap. The reason for that is because that reduces the amount of texture samplers in the texture so that you can add more textures later on without any issues. Okay, now this is our fully completed star code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this, comment it, and call it stars. I'm going to move this a bit out of the way. I'm gonna drag this comment block out a bit, and I'm gonna drag off the multiply, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to type in name for named reroute. I'm going to call this stars, and this is where all the stars code is. So all you have to do to add stars to your scene is going to this lumen cal and doing an add node off of that. So you want to add an add node, and then you want to right click and type in stars and plug that into the B value of the add node and plug that into the emissive color. And if I hit apply, you would notice that there aren't any stars during the day, or not that I can see any. And if I go into night, you can see now there is a stars texture. So let's quickly go ahead and adjust these values by opening up our content browser. Then we're going to right click this SkySphere. We're going to create a material instance. We're going to rename this to mi_SkySphere. We're going to go ahead and open it up. Then we're going to undock this window so that when we are editing in the editor, we can see our values live. Then I'm going to go to my first person map. Now the first thing I want to do is the stars aren't really bright during the night. I'd rather like the brightness to go up. So in my material instance, I'm going to go to star brightness and change this up a bit. I think a value of 4 is very bright. So let me see. I notice actually the oh yeah, the value isn't changing. The reason for that is because we didn't apply our material instance. So you want to go to your SkySphere, scroll all the way up in your details panel, and here in materials element 0, you just want to change that to the MI SkySphere. And now this will use our customized one. So the brightness of the stars very low. So I just want to tune it up a bit. I feel like 4 is a good value because I really like this awesome effect with the stars. And let's go ahead and test this now. So I'm going to go to my day-night cycle. I'm going to take this to a sunset value. So here it's beginning to sunset. So in the darker parts of the sky up there, you can see the stars is blending in. And then when it moves, the the sun moves there, you can see in the lighter parts of the sky, the stars aren't rendering, but here in the darker parts it renders. And then when we do the final transition, it transitions into this nice blend. Now, you might not like how it blends in, and that's really easy to change. If we go to a sunrise value, so let's say I wanted the stars to not appear at about 8 o'clock or when the sun is here. So all you have to do is in your material instance, the stars blend minimum darkness. So this value over here that is 35 determines this. So if you take this on and change the value higher, it needs to be darker for the stars to render. And the lower this value is, the lighter the stars can render on. So if you want stars during the day, you can do that. 35 is a good value for me, but you can change it to 40. There renders less stars. You can go change that to 50. And now the stars are practically gone during the day. Now, like I said, I love 35, so I'm going to leave it on there. So that is the stars sorted out. We're going to make them rotate pretty soon, but let's go ahead and do the moon. There's multiple ways to add a moon to your project. You could use the planet approach. I've seen a lot of people do this. They make a moon mesh, quite literally, that rotates around the Earth. Now, I'm going to go against that because the problem is that I'm just going to save now. The problem is with that is that the moon doesn't necessarily occlude well behind this cloud. So when the moon is in the sky, the clouds doesn't necessarily block it very well. And when it does, you have to put the moon at a very high distance away. That causes a few problems with world partition, and it's overall just a mess. So I personally just use the textured approach. It also allows for you to do clouds in the skybox, which could create some very cool effects. Anyway, to do that, you want to go to your SkySphere. And we want to go to an open spot somewhere like here. We want to open up a content browser, drag our T moon section. And then we want to right click in the open and type in skybox image. So this was the node people previously used. Now this node has a few problems. It doesn't map correctly. The moon stretches. It's a horrible node currently. So how do we fix this node? Well, we're going to use a new node specifically made to replace this. If we delete that and type in atmosphere, so you're going to see there's a sky atmosphere image node here under texturing. If you add that, it's the same node, but it fixes all of the problems with skybox image. So before we can actually add the moon texture to it, it needs a texture object. So the texture sample is not going to work. We're going to have to right click on this texture sample over here and convert it to a texture object. And we're also going to right click on it and convert it to a parameter. And we're going to call this moon texture. And while we're here, we're going to go to bottom left under details and change the group to moon. We're going to go ahead and drag that into the texture object over there. Now it also needs a direction, so it needs a direction for the moon to actually, map this image. To do that, or to get the direction of the moon isn't hard. You right click and type in light direction. And you're going to find this node called sky atmosphere light direction. All you want to do is change the light index to 1 so it gets the moon's direction. And you want to plug that into the direction node. Awesome. Now, there's also a scale value here, so we can actually scale our moon up. All you want to do is hold 1 on your keyboard, right click and convert to parameter. We're going to call this moon scale. And we're going to go ahead and set the default value to 1. And we're going to change the group from none to moon. I believe there was already a moon group, but yeah, awesome. We can go ahead and drag that into the scale node. And there's also a rotation we can do, so we can go ahead and I'm just going to hold 1 on my keyboard, right click, convert to parameter, call this moon rotation. And the default value I'm going to leave at 0, just set the group to moon. I'm going to plug that into the rotation. Okay, and here we have our fully completed moon image. But how do we actually add that to our scene? Well, we drag off the result value and do a named reroute. And this is going to be called moon. And we're going to just move this out a bit. And we're going to select all of this, press C to comment and call it moon. Then we're going to go here to where the emissive color calculation is. And all we have to do is take our stars over here, drag off that and do an add node. And then we right click and type in moon to get our moon named reroute and plug that into the B value and then plug that into the B value of this add. Now, if we go ahead and apply and save, we will have a moon, but this isn't correct. The moon's massive firstly, and also the moon is stretching everywhere. Why is this? Well, it's pretty simple. We actually have to go to the moon texture, and here we didn't actually mask off the moon. So the problem is with the sky atmosphere image is that it actually projects the multiple moons, so we have to mask off the correct one. Now to do that's pretty simple. Here at the sky atmosphere image node, you want to drag off the alpha and type in multiply. Then you want to multiply the alpha and the mask. And then finally, you want to make another multiply node by copying and pasting, drag the result into the A, and drag that into the moon, and drag the multiply into the B. And if you hit apply, then if I go to my level, during the day I don't have a moon, but if I change the fin to night, I have a moon. Okay, so now we have a few problems. Firstly, the moon is massive. Secondly, there's a light glitching through the moon. And thirdly, there's actually stars going through the moon. So firstly, let's fix the size of the moon. That's pretty easy to do. That was set by our material instance. But I think let's go to our SkySphere. And the moon scale, we're going to set the default value to 0.1 and apply and save, so that the moon is overall just smaller. I really like the size, but remember you can adjust it in your material instance. Now the second thing we need to fix is the light shining through. That's really easy to fix. You have to go to your day-night cycle or wherever your moon is. You want to go to the moon directional light, and then you want to change the source angle from 0.5 or whatever it is to 0. And now there won't be any light shining through. Now finally, we need to fix the stars actually glitching through the moon. Now this is really easy to fix. You just want to go to your SkySphere material, and what we have to do is we have to lerp between the stars and the moon based on this mask. So wherever the moon is, stars won't render on the star's texture. Now that's pretty easy too. All we want to do is we want to drag off this multiply here at the alpha and mask, type in name, and add a new named reroute. This is going to be called moon mask, and this will be where the moon is so we can mask off the stars. And now all we have to do is go to where we're adding the stars and the moon, and we're going to delete the add node, drag off the stars, and do a lerp node. Awesome. And we're going to lerp between the stars and the moon, so the moon's going to the B value. And the alpha, we're going to right click and type in moon mask and plug that into the alpha. And finally, plug that into the add. So it will mask off the stars wherever the moon is. We can go ahead and apply and save. Let's see if that fixed it. And yeah, there's no stars rendering through the moon. We can actually go ahead and go to our SkySphere material, drag that out here, and go to our first person map. And all we can really do is set the scale of the moon. And you can see it does not have any stars rendering through it. So that's completely fixed. I'm going to set this back to 0.1. And finally, one more thing I want to do is I want to add a way to change the brightness of the moon. So I'm going to go to my SkySphere material. I'm going to go to my moon texture over here. And just after this multiply with the results, I'm gonna drag this moon and moon mask off a bit. Actually, just the moon. I'm going to drag that off a bit. Going to make this comment block bigger. Then I'm going to drag off this multiply and do another multiply. I'm going to plug that into the moon result. And finally, this bottom value will be the brightness of the moon. So I'm going to hold one on my keyboard and left click, right click, convert to parameter. I'm going to call this moon brightness. I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom left of the details panel and change the group from moon or none to moon and plug that into the B value. And I'm also going to change the default value to 1. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and test this. We're going to press apply and save. Now, if I go to my material instance, so I'm going to open up my content browser, go to material instance, undock this, go to my first person map, and if I go turn on the moon brightness, I can actually adjust the brightness of the moon. So you can search for a value you really like. For me, I'd say something like, oh, just be careful. If you put the value into negative, it will actually like make a black void. I really like something like 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 looks really good. Awesome. You can also set the moon rotation if you really wanted to do that. I'm not going to bother at all. I'm going to go to the moon texture and turn it on, and I can change the moon texture to whatever. So I can change this to the Unreal Engine logo if I really wanted to, but I don't want that. And remember, you can also change the stars texture in here and change it to whatever you want, so you can do that. Looks really weird, so I'm just gonna put that back to the stars texture, and yeah, that's pretty cool. We can go ahead and close that. We're going to go look here, and what's one thing I need to do? Oh yeah, the problem is, right, if I hit play, the moon moves right, and it moves correctly. It has but we have a problem, the stars aren't moving with it. Now, usually Earth like rotates and the stars go around it. So how do we fix that? Well, it's a really easy fix. All you have to do is delete the SkySphere we just made. I know that sounds dumb, but we're going to delete that. And we're going to open up our content browser, and wherever you have your day-night cycle code, I'm going to go here, and this is our BP day-night cycle. I'm going to go to viewport, and then I'm going to go to my top left components, click on the moon component, and then I'm going to click on add and type in static mesh. I'm going to add a static mesh. I'm going to call this SM_SkySphere, and I'm going to go to the right side. I'm going to go to static mesh, change this from none to our SkySphere. Want to compile and save. Go to the materials, element 0, and change that to our MI SkySphere. And then finally, I want to go to the scale and set this to 150,000, so 150,000 on each axis. Then finally, we changed the brightness of the moon in the editor, but we didn't actually change it in our blueprint. So we're going to go to our BP day-night cycle, we're going to go to the moon, and we're going to change the source angle to 0. And now the moon will render correctly here as well. Awesome. So we can save, and now we have our stars and everything back. And if I hit play, you can actually see the stars move very slowly. Let's go ahead and actually change the speed of the day-night cycle so you can see it clear. So I'm going to go to my BP day-night cycle, going to scroll down to total day-night time, and let's change it that the day-night cycle ends in a minute. And if I hit play, you can see the stars move, so they're rotating, and now you can see the moon occludes behind the star clouds correctly, so it looks very good. And you can see the stars moving. It looks really cool. So when the sun rises, it blends out these stars like in a very cool way. Remember, you can adjust how the blending works pretty easily by just going to your MI SkySphere and just changing the blend minimum darkness. You can also mess around with the blend transition value, but I find 0.1 to work very well. Okay, so I think that's all. If you don't like the position of the stars currently, so maybe you would want the stars to be a bit more closer to the moon, that's also very easy to do. You just want to open up your you don't want to open up your content browser. You want to go to your BP day-night cycle, scroll all the way down to get your SkySphere, and all you want to do is change the rotation of this until you are happy with the result. So if I want more stars like this to render around the moon, let me just change the rotation a bit. So if I wanted it to look something like this, I can. All I have to do is I have to go to top right, edit the blueprint of this actor, and apply instance changes to blueprint. So now this is working on the blueprint as well. And if I hit play now, you can see that awesome part moves with the moon. So that's fully your choice how you want to do that. But that's this day and night cycle sorted. Actually, one more thing. You might notice there's kind of like a blur to the day-night cycle. Now, the blur isn't really visible if the day-night cycle is decently long, this day-night cycle is a minute long, so the blur is pretty obvious. Now that's thanks to temporal super resolution in Unreal Engine. It's the new upscaler in Unreal Engine 5, and it causes blurring with this. So something you can do is change your anti-alias settings or work on other stuff with this. But this isn't noticeable really at all if your day-night cycle is very long, or at least above 1 minute. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. Hit like if you liked the video, hit dislike if you didn't, and see you guys in the next one. Good night, everybody.